Okay, we're back. We're going to put our mid values in. This is completely dry. I've still got my paint palette here. I'm going to spritz it real quick just so that nothing gets dry on me. And again, I'm going to start with the eyes, and I want to get that soft blend and the lighter colors in there. And so what you're going to notice is the black pupil is actually partially gray. So we're going to mix up a gray color. You might need to put a little bit of white out on your palette. And I had gray from that other bottle. But you know what? I'm going to put white on my palette too, because we are going to need that. Oh, here it is. Oh, this white might be all gone. There's my white. Okay, and in case you didn't know, you can always put another styrofoam plate on top of your palette if you need to take a break, and that'll keep it wet. You just want to make sure it's tightly, against the bottom plate so that air doesn't get in there. All right, so we're going to put this lighter color in there, and it's going to be brighter too, but we don't want to cover up absolutely everything that we've put down already. So it's just going to be a small amount of paint on the brush. Again, I'm still using my number 4, and I want to get that really pretty greenish color in there first. So that's going to obviously be a little bit of this yellow and blue, and this time I'm really not going to mute it down with the Terra Coral. So I'm going to turn it sideways. I like doing it that way. And I'm going to start in the lightest part down here. And sometimes you just don't always know if the color is right until you actually put it on there. And that's a little darker than I thought, but that's okay. So I put that little bit, and now with wipe off my brush a little bit, and with this kind of dryish brush, I'm going to spread this a little further. Just a little bit. And so I'm kind of blending that, and I'm even going to go over my pupil a little bit. It's okay if I obscure that line a little bit. A lot of people don't realize that when you look at someone's iris, or, there are soft edges where the pupil meets the colored part of the eye. It's actually a soft edge sometimes. All right, so then I'm going to go a little bit lighter. Maybe I'll use yellow. Yellow or white are the two colors you use to lighten. Let's try just yellow, because really a lot of owls' eyes are pretty yellow. And that's looking pretty good. I got a lighter color there. Wipe it off a little bit and spread that a little bit further. That's going to give me that slight blended effect. It's a pretty dry brush. I can always clean up if I soften my, if I hit my black too much with this color, I can always come back and paint that black with a nice sharp line later. All right, so I am liking that effect I'm getting. I think I want the eyes a little bluer, so I'm going to use this Velvet Teal Straight Up. I didn't bother cleaning my brush. And I want to get just a bit more blue up here now. I'm going to keep the dull color that I've got closer up, higher up. Just getting a bit of blue in here. Well, I'm calling it blue. So you can see that was a small amount. I'm going to clean my brush out in the water this time, and this is just a very little bit of blending. I'm just going to go right between these two colors. I hope you can see this. And just blend that little bit. My brush is very slightly damp. Just blending that little edge right there. That's it. So it's a subtle little thing. Pulling this up just a little bit more. That blue. These are very light touches. Very, very soft. And then just a bit lighter at the bottom. So now I'm going to use more yellow. In fact, you might even just use yellow with water and do this really light glaze along the very bottom here. So I painted it on at a line, as a line, and it's a little too harsh. So I'm going to wipe my brush off. And then I'm just going to soften the edge of that line that I painted. I'm not worried about the outside of the line where it touches the black. I'm only worried about the inside of the eye. I can clean up that outside in a minute. You know, and so this is called glazing. And you know, you might do a few different glazes with this lighter color until you get it exactly how you want. And that's probably pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect, and that's okay. Let's go to the pupil now. Mix yourself up a gray, and you just don't know if it's the right gray until you actually put it on there. Just mix up a gray that looks about like that. I don't know if it's going to work, and I'm going to paint over the bottom of the pupil. This kind of makes the eye come alive and makes it look wetter, believe it or not. All right, and you know, acrylic paint dries just a slight bit darker. That's pretty good. I'm going to go just a little bit lighter. I'm going to add a tiny bit of white, make a slightly lighter gray. Yeah, I like what that's doing. And again, we're going to blend. I'm going to wipe off my brush, maybe rinse it out, and just soften that edge with a slightly dampened brush. Just think soft, soft, soft. Keep it soft. And then we're going to put just a little highlight. This is still wet, so I might have a problem here, but the highlight should be round and it shouldn't be too big. And you always want to make sure it's in the same spot on both eyes. All right. So now I'm going to do a little bit of shading on the beak. You know, I like to jump around, you know, on different areas. Let some parts dry, think about it, come back to it later. So I'm going to use straight linen. See how that looks in the very center of the beak. Yeah, and that's not bad. Maybe I'll mix a slightly darker color. I'm going to get a little brown. Maybe I need a little water in there, a little more brown. Don't want to make this nose too big or too noticeable, but it does need to have a little shading. So that brought a little too much attention to it, so I'm going to use my black. And got a little too big. Good. So then while I have that, my black, I'm going to clean up over here. You can always blow dry this and use a Sharpie for this. Put, you know, maybe it's a young child doing this painting and they're having a real hard time with this. You can always use a Sharpie. And when you load a brush, when you're using this script liner, I will roll it in the paint against the lip of the plate like that. And that's how you know, get it as a nice point. And I'm actually using the side of the brush when I'm painting. Let me show you this. I'm using this side of the brush. So let's say this is the eye. I hope this is showing. I'm going to use the side of the brush to get that line painted in. Does that make sense? The side of the brush. I'm not trying to get the tip right on there. If you lay it down and use the side of the brush, it's much easier. Of course, you got to make sure you have enough paint in the brush. That side of the brush, the middle of the brush, is the part you want to have aimed. Oops. All right, so there, I went too deep because I was pointing the tip. So whenever you want to get rid of something quickly, just if you right away wipe at it, you can pretty much get it off of there immediately. So I'm laying it down where it doesn't matter, and then I'm pulling it over to the part that does matter. I hope that makes sense. And then softening the outer edge of that weird line I just made. And then I'm going to reestablish this black circle in here just a little bit. More. So it's like we're even doing shading inside that black pupil. So it really makes his eyes have that deep, a deep look. All right. I want to clean up that white highlight just a little bit more, so Still too big. This brush actually has one funky hair that's sticking out that's causing me grief. And then maybe I'll make this a little bit lighter. So you see how our highlights are really going to make the whole thing pop, but we're not going to do the highlights just yet. All right, so I feel pretty good. Well, I want to clean this up just a little bit more. And then we're going to move on to, you know, the feathers. Let me just get in here. It's just a little too... There we go. Better, better, better. All right. So, looking pretty cool, pretty cool. All right, so now we're going to start filling in all of this and his forehead a little bit. So I'm gonna make this color that I made before and get some of that going on up here. And that was the teal with a little bit of coral. I think that's, may have had a little bit of linen in it too. I don't remember. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be, you know, exactly the same. The point is it's a muted down color. And I'm just going to go in and, you know, kind of dot this all over. I'm not going to worry about going on top of this black thing. I'm going to paint that back on again. And I'm trying not to cover up all of this peach back here. I want some of this peach in the background to remain. But I do have to get rid of these weird Sharpie lines that are showing. I don't think I want that. And if you can keep some of the peach inside his forehead, that's great too. All right. Mixed a little bit more teal with it. Maybe I'll come down here and put some down here of this. It's a little bit darker, but that's okay. I kind of like that. All right, so I'm going to work on this part now. I'm going to make a soft brown, so I'm going to use my umber and my linen. And make a, I don't know, a lighter brown. Something that'll work in there. And again, I don't know exactly what shade to make it until I mix it up and just go ahead and put it down on there and see if I like it. I'm not going to put it too far into the black area until I'm sure. So I kind of look at where it matches what I have down already. And I just put a few dots down, and that looks pretty good. If I had put it up this high, I probably wouldn't have liked it. I hope that makes sense, what I'm saying. And I'm just gonna kind of travel around with this color, this value. And I keep reloading my brush, and when I reload, I spin it and get the paint on the tip of the brush. And I'm going to put some of that, I'm going to start dotting that up here as well. I don't know, I think I'm able to do like 6, 7 dots, and then I have to reload and re-chisel my point, re-establish my tip of my brush. If you don't keep doing that, then your brush tip gets all mushed and you don't get nice dots. Now later on we are going to use an actual nail dotter and get some real actual dots. All right, so now And then the other thing too, if your paint is getting a little too thick and sticky, like it's just not spreading for you, you might need to just put a little bit more water in there. So I just dipped my brush in my water, and I'm just gonna kind of mix that around in there, and it's just a little juicier now, which kind of makes for easier specks and dots when it's wetter. So I'm feeling like this color is a little too light going up into there, so I'm gonna make another shade that is just a little bit darker. Just gonna add some more brown, and I actually am gonna add some black this time. So now it's a blacky brown, which when you think about it, that is what I need, because I'm right in between black and brown. And again, I don't know if it's the right shade until I actually put it on there. This is pretty dark. I'm going to do a streak of this for his ear. So I'm going to start up here and pull it down. I can tell that it wasn't wet enough, so I dipped in the water, pull it down into here. So I need an in-between color. I'm going to mix something a little bit lighter. Maybe I'll add some linen to this. Mix these two shades together. I'm also turning so that there's the direction of my brush strokes are all, you know, pointing at the eye. And we are going to put those lighter hairs on top of this, so a lot of this isn't going to show too much. I'm calling them hairs. They're not, I don't know, they're not really hairs, but I don't know what they are. So now, you know, and be sure when you're judging this, be sure and kind of step back a little bit to look at it. That's looking pretty good. Walk this color around, get a little bit of it up here. Okay. So that's pretty good for our like mid tones, and we're going to start getting into some lighter tones now. But first, I kind of want to get that background color in there. And I think that's like a muted bluish gray, if I had to guess. So I'm just going to mix some blue and gray together. And maybe some white and coral. I don't know. Again, I don't know if I'm going to like this till I put it on there. So I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to come paint this in here, kind of establishing that line of his forehead. I'm trying to cover up that Sharpie line. We're going to scratch this with the end of our hard end of our brush in just a second while this is wet. Try to keep some of that original background color in there. Okay, so that's in there, and then I'm just going to scratch just to give it a loose feel. I'm going to do the same thing on the sides here. I'm going to try and keep just a little bit of that peach showing. And I'm going to scratch through that. So I'm kind of obscuring where's the background and where's the owl. We don't really know for sure. That's okay. That's what they do. They blend into their background. The focal point is the eye anyway. So that's pretty good for our midtones. I think this is a good stopping point. I still see one little bit right here. This still looks just a little bit off, so I'm going to hit that real quick with black one more time. I need just a little bit more black here. So I'm reestablishing this black coming in this way. Cleaning up this. Sometimes they have little, you know, wispy things here like this. And that is a pretty good stopping point.